and welcome to episode next of Punch Up. The podcast where we try to make good jokes hit harder. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today, MaryAlice. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. We are at a cute little coffee shop in, where are we? We're in Westminster. Westminster. And we both have really, it's like a shame that you can't see, we both have like the most beautiful lattes right now. Like it's like full stop, like real latte art. It was a very nice treat, especially today of all days, which is the day after the United States election. Why are we doing this to ourselves? How are you feeling?
I feel like how I imagine people feel at the beginning of a sci-fi movie, or like that season of American Horror Story Apocalypse when they announce that someone hit the red button somewhere and there's nuclear bombs going off, or like they first see like the giant spaceship appear and it's just like
that's 100% how Instagram feels right now, is when like they hit the big red button and you're just like nuclear bombs are falling in. Like that's 100% how the internet feels.
Yeah, like we're just waiting, but we don't, it's like you know what you have to do and you know what we're gonna have to probably do, but I'm just still like charging my cortisol levels for that moment. No, that's super real. I appreciate you doing this with me, even though it is a weird day, but I also was like, no, this is important because like, first of all, I think that like, I don't know, like I first of all, I just want to be in community, you know? I think that that's like something I'm craving, and like, second of all, I feel like you have just like really unique perspective in kind of like political side of world, comedy side, you know, as well. And so I guess just to like kick it off, like, you know, I'll ask you the same question I ask everybody on the show, which is, what does punching up mean to you? I think that punching up means to me almost like it's like a tool, you know? It's like a tool in order to make room for yourself in a scene that, or like in a society or in a structure or system that wasn't like really meant for you to succeed. And the thing about punching up is that people don't have to be in your way.
Oh wow. And
so in this you know, journey to ascension, getting to like, you know, leveling up in your career, leveling up in your jokes and your comedy, and becoming a professional in that system or in that field or in that scene, if I have to make contact with you because you're in my way, that's your problem. Like, think of like a glass ceiling, you know?
Right.
Like, if I have to punch through a glass ceiling and you're in the way, I'm sorry if your male fragility got in the way of my, you know,
me trying to make space for myself. I love the way that I love the way that you said that. It's almost like it makes me think of this visual of punching not just at someone or something, but punching like into a wall and then like crawling through it. Does that make sense? I know that's so silly, but I'm like, oh wow, that's like a whole other concept
like
of
a
like
broken elevator. Like you gotta like crawl out of the top, you know?
Oh, like a broken elevator. America is a broken elevator. Yeah, that feels accurate. Wow, I love that definition.
And I'm feeling like a fucking nerd, but like when I think of the analogy of the glass ceiling, I like it because I'm like, okay, who's fragile in this analogy? Who's the fragile one? The one's made of glass.
Who's the fragile one? Oh my god, I'm so rude. I didn't even like really introduce people to you. MaryAlice, tell me about yourself.
Oh.
Tell me about yourself.
Myself? Well, I'm originally from Jefferson City, Missouri.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I moved here when I was like 20 years old. No, I was 21. I was already 21. I've lived here for like 7 years, over 7 years. I lived in the Springs for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I moved out here because I was in a long-term relationship that I was in for 7 years, and I got dumped last summer.
Hey, high five. Me too.
So my whole world got flipped on its head. And then my dream job, I managed a Mac counter for 2 years and was a Mac makeup artist. I loved it.
No wonder you're so good at that.
Thank you.
That tracks.
And before that, I was a legal secretary for Colorado Legal Services, which is a civil legal nonprofit. So just totally, I've done a lot of different things. Worn a lot of different hats in my life.
God. I love you so much right now. That's so cool.
Well, it was a really awesome jobs, awesome fields. Super passionate about both. I just wanted to do something creative, but god damn it, 2 months after getting dumped, I got fired.
Oh, that's brutal. So like your whole life got thrown into like the mixer for sure. Like,
honestly, the job hurt more than the breakup, which told me something about like either my identity, like my work-life balance, or how much I actually fucked with that fool, you know?
Oh, that's real. Oh, wow, good point.
Do I have a toxic relationship with my job, or did I just not even... I wasn't that into him.
Wait a second. I wasn't even invested in this relationship. That's really self-aware of you to acknowledge as well. I wanted to talk about... Because you're like bilingual, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Where did you like? Where does that come from in your life? Where did you like pick that up? And then, does that kind of affect your comedy or your work? Like,
yeah, absolutely. So, my mom's from Argentina. My dad's from Tennessee. So she moved here when she was in her 20s and didn't speak a lot of English. And growing up, so she always spoke Spanish at home. So I was always like pretty solid in like understanding and like carrying conversations, but it wasn't until I like joined mostly like the workforce in Colorado, where like in Colorado Springs sometimes I'd be like maybe one of a couple Spanish speaking people especially at the law firm. When I worked in retail, there'd be a bunch of people who spoke Spanish and we all would help our customers and stuff, but at the law firm it was definitely like myself and maybe luckily one other person who spoke Spanish, but a lot of the population we were serving spoke Spanish.
Wow.
So just out of necessity, it became like, hey, don't even hesitate. Don't even look up Google Translate. Just try your best. Just keep trying to keep up. Keep trying to keep up.
So interesting. That's how I like picked up the little bits of Spanish that I know is from being the only person with rudimentary knowledge in a pretty divided like kitchen space where like all of our kitchen staff spoke Spanish and all of our front of house like staff didn't. Yeah. And so I was like suddenly the bridge between the two, and like similarly they were like just do your best, and I was like okay.
And the great thing about something like law is that other than the lawyers, Spanish or English, nobody knows what anything means. So it gets to be this really cool, like, hey, I didn't understand that in Spanish or English. Neither is the client. Let's work up a new way to say this. Same with makeup even, because I worked in Northfield. Almost all my clients spoke Spanish. And makeup words are like, they come up with new words every day for a new product.
Right.
So you just had to kind of make it up and Spanglish your way through, and sometimes look up a picture of it, or it got to a point where...
And sometimes it's not as descriptive as, like, liquid liner, which, like, you know, like, that tracks. I feel like that's an easy kind of translate to be then, like, oh, you're getting what this, like, essence of this is.
Yeah,
but then there's, like...
liner, that's kind of
exactly.
close.
But, like, to just be like, oh, it's a different type of rouge, you're like, wait a second. Like, there's a whole lot of ways.
Isn't fundación, it's base. Base, which someone might think would be a primer. If you speak English, if a person is like, you want base, they'd be like, is that a primer?
Right.
So that could get really confusing.
Oh wow, that's so... I love that. That's like I don't know, like that's so interesting to think about having to then be creative in your role to actually get your point across.
And those interactions create a memory, which then makes you remember that language more.
Yeah.
Because now you actually have like a core memory of learning that, you know...
You're like learning it with them, too. You're like, oh, that's so cool.
And in the beauty department, there's a lot of perfume, so sometimes you get a little French in there, too. I'm like, this perfume is called Je me caca, but bitch, neither of us speak French. We'll be fine.
Who are you wearing right now? Je me caca.
MAC Turquatic. Even though they fired me, I'm still wearing MAC.
Shout out. That's amazing. How did you get into comedy?
That was the only constant during this time of my life.
That was the only constant.
I started it like 2 years before getting dumped.
What got you into it? Why did you start?
That's a good question. I didn't answer that. I missed performing. I did theater in college, and I always liked to be like an MC and stuff at events, like school things.
Yeah.
And I started journaling. And every time I would journal about like something that upset me, I would get to a point where I'm making myself laugh. And I would call my sister and I'd be like, I had this crazy thought the other day. And she's like, she'd always told me I should try stand-up. And I was living in Denver finally. It's a huge stand-up city. And I didn't have any friends, so I thought, what the hell? I'm gonna go to an open mic.
What was your first mic?
Tavern on 26.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, with Christy Lee. Yeah.
Oh, Christy, I love you.
That's such a good one. That's one of my favorite bars to go to because they have like kind of this regular crowd as well of people that just come and drink there. And so I'm getting really good feedback of like, how would this hit, like, not to be rude, but like, how would this hit like a bit of a drunkard's ear, you know what I mean? And getting that take is like so critical because that's a lot of your audience, right? It's like a lot of people that end up coming to comedy shows are like...
If you ever want to travel and you're like, how would this joke hit in the Midwest? Go to Tavern.
Go to Tavern, they'll tell you. They'll let you know.
It has a very just like kind of everybody vibe there. So you get all kinds of feedback.
Yeah, no, that's so real. Oh, that's so cool. And how long have you been doing comedy?
Myself, honestly, I would say I'm like 3 years in.
3 years.
I'm 3 years in now. Like right now, I think I did my first mic really in November of 2020.
Comedy Scorpio. I love that. That's so cool. You are so beloved in the Denver scene, and also it's so interesting because like I think that when someone is kind of like in the scene like that, sometimes they can give off a bit of a brutishness is kind of rude. I feel like that's a rude way to say it because I think they're just there to like do the thing, be done, and go home. You know what I mean? But like, you know, they're not necessarily super friendly to newcomers, but when I joined the scene, you were so lovely to me, and you have always been so lovely to me, as you are to like pretty much everyone that is worthy of that. And like I'm so impressed with the way that you like navigate that so gracefully. Can you talk about being a woman in the Denver scene, which is very white bro heavy, and how you're able to kind of keep that niceness while also holding appropriate boundaries if and when you need to?
That's a great question. And I'm glad that you perceive me as doing that, because it isn't easy. And it is a very male-dominated scene. So one of the first things that I learned that took me a while to learn, because I met you sort of when I was coming off of my early jaded phase, where I was getting really frustrated by just the consistency of like the bro dude scene,
atmosphere. Yeah, it's so machismo. It's so like obnoxious and mean and like, yeah, yes.
Like you sometimes feel like you just have to sit there and listen to people talk about atrocious things.
Yep. Just
because it's a joke. But I started to realize that I can't isolate myself just because I might be in a room and be the only woman in the room. And I have to give some of my peers more credit than just dismissing them because they are men. So I started to pay attention to the proximity that a lot of men in this scene, first of all, what did they say in their jokes and how do they talk about women and other people in their day-to-day, like when they're off stage and on stage, but then just like proximity to women in their life. You know, who has female friends who come to shows?
Oh, wow.
Who's booking female comics on their shows?
Oh my God, say it again. Who is booking?
Who's booking female comics
on their shows? Who is making sure that there is at least one woman on a fucking lineup?
And I keep saying comic, but I mean comedian. Because a lot of us, like, I mean, I keep saying comic because I still consider myself, maybe I'm, still early, but fuck that. We're both comedians.
We're pros, babe.
Bro,
we're
I
pros.
get paid for this shit.
That's what I'm saying.
I
was
pros.
like, nah, we're pros.
And people who great example is like Thug, the Humor Underground.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have no family here. I'm not from here. I only had my ex's family with my only connection to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
But next thing you knew, I'm like, I'm sitting with my friend's mom and his sister that I've known for 2 years from doing comedy, and all of a sudden I'm like, shoot, I actually do know people. I do know family, and that's where I end up spending some of my holidays. Or, I work with his brother at the pawn shop. But I was able to find a way to not isolate myself by actually still scrutinizing men, but being able to make good judgments based off that. Like, you know what? There are some people here that will have my back, and I don't need to feel isolated. And then guess what? That usually led me to meeting the fucking other women in the scene that are amazing and awesome.
Wow. Oh, man, that was such a great... Thank you so much for going into that, because I think that was so beautifully put, and it's something that I come up with, with in a different way, and kind of as like a trans comic, right? And being like, similarly, like people are a little weird about letting me into the space. I don't exactly fit into the bro, like, environment, especially after I've done a set, and I've come out. And I really enjoy hearing you talk about, needing to both be more critical about the ways that you're like kind of judging people, and also like less
narrow-minded isn't quite the right term, but like less like stark in just cutting people off and not kind of like letting them in or, you know, isolating yourself from them. I think that's so huge, and like it's a hard lesson for me to learn as well, right? Trying to figure out like, can I fit into this space? Like, do I belong in this space? Am I, you know, allowed to kind of take up space here? And hearing you kind of work through that process is like really helpful for me. What
we talk a lot about a seat at the table, but sometimes you don't even know who to sit with. Like, you can pull out a chair, but I don't even know if I'm allowed to sit by this person, you know?
That's amazing. I'm literally like writing down the timestamp on that quote. Fantastic. I don't even know who to sit with. That's so real. And I guess like, what are you, you know, looking for? Let's just go even like really superficially. Like, let's just say like, you know what I mean? Like, you're like wide right type situation. You go to an open mic. It's a comic bar. There's a bunch of people, and you're trying to find, you know, like first of all, kind of like an ally and a friend, and also someone that you might actually vibe with. What are green flags for you that you're looking out for? I think that, you know, is so brilliant to mention like, oh, who's booking women, who's like ensuring that, you know. And that takes a little bit of research sometimes, right? It takes a little bit of like reconnaissance and digging. So kind of, you know, in person, what are some green flags that you look for? Because I struggle to be like, how do I even approach this and figure out who's safe? Like,
well, this is pretty shallow, but I don't really, I only hang out with people who don't smoke weed. So it's usually the first test.
Funny.
You know, like, someone
that
smells
really
good over
narrows
here.
it down in the comedy community.
Oh,
It's
so
funny.
narrow, no. Oh my god.
Wide angle lens. No, that is true though. I feel like it's like subcultures connect a little bit more easily, and like.
But on top of that, people who bring their own weed are even cooler.
Oh, shout out.
Okay.
Shout out the homies that bring the weed and smoke me up. I appreciate you.
And then honestly, if somebody has a notebook, like this is me trying to just be inviting. If I see somebody who just has a notebook and looks like they're writing and keeps looking up and looking around,
it's the tiny notebook signal. It's like the little, it's like the bat signal for comedians. It's like, I have a tiny notebook. I swear I'm supposed to be at this bar at a weird hour.
And then
that's so true.
I drop like it's like the classic new comic pickup line. I'll call it, did you sign up? Are you going up tonight?
Is your name on the list?
Is your name on the list?
Oh my gosh, that was such a great equation for like how to make a friend at an open mic. That's so accurate. Who smokes weed? Who brought their own weed? Who's got a tiny notebook? That's incredible. Shifting kind of to like punching up, right? Have you had to, because I think that this question hits different for people, of course, because we all have different content, but also we're writing from different perspectives. And so what punching up looks like for some people is different than it is for others, in the same way that like who you might be punching up is different if you are, you know, a white guy versus if you're, you know, like a marginalized person of any sort, right? Have you had to punch up a joke recently and make it better, either to make it quippier and quicker, or to make it less offensive and like more absorbable? Have you had to do that in the last like year, and what was that process like?
Yes. Okay. I listened to some of your episodes because I was trying to do my homework.
Oh my god, I'm flattered.
Yes.
You actually listened to me talk for that long? That's incredible.
And I loved everyone's, like, I actually have more to listen to. I listened to Who I Knew the Least.
Oh, cool.
Just to kind of get to know people, you know? And so when you asked a question recently, I kept thinking in like, the last few weeks. Because I've only been doing comedy 3 years. But since you gave me a whole year, this makes my example perfect. Alright, so my mom always wants me, like, on the phone, she always wants me to make fun of her. Like, she's like, you know you can make fun of my accent. You know you can make fun of my accent.
That's so cute. She, like, wants you to tease her because that's also, like, kind of a love language for some people.
It is. Totally a love language. She wants me to make fun of her accent. And
dare I say it is also, like, a love language that I see commonly in, like, Latina communities, right?
100%. 100%. I always say when, like, Argentinians give me a hard time for, like, having a Mexican accent, I say it's because Mexicans were nice when they taught me Spanish, and my cousins would bully me when they tried to teach me, so that's their fault.
That's so real. Oh, wow, that's funny.
And I'm very easy to understand by a wide range of Latinos. It's not like...
Yes.
the Argentinian accent, which sounds crazy. But back on topic, I had a hard time doing. I didn't want to do that, and then I also had around the same time a really horrible roommate experience with this crazy girl from Australia.
Oh wow!
This crazy girl from Australia.
So we got crazy people, we got crazy accents.
Yeah,
Like, okay.
I don't know what's going down there. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's a joke right there. I'm like, write that down. That's I don't know what's going down under, but all right, you know. Oh, that's
she made her way around the scene in, you know, her lovely way, and she's a very interesting person. She was a comic. She's crazy, and it was like a way where like I wanted to talk about this crazy roommate experience,
right?
But I didn't want to seem like I was just trying to basically talk shit on another comic who's in the scene who was my roommate.
Right.
And then I also didn't want to make fun of my mom's accent at the same time. So I was trying to think of like, because she kept being like, people were encouraging me like, you can do it, but you can get away with it. And I'm like, yeah, but just because I can get away with it doesn't mean I should.
Oh gosh, yes. Say it louder for the people in the. Oh my god, that is how I feel about all comedy censorship. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
And like my mom's okay with it, but like for me, I used to be very offended when people would make fun of my mom's accent growing up.
Oh wow, so it's kind of hitting a different point.
And if I do that and it makes other people think it's okay. Like, I hear people do impressions all the time. That white comic who does the impression of, like, the Vietnamese salon, right? Because they hear a white lady doing that impression, and now they think, oh, I'm not doing an impression of...
That's fine. It's fine.
I'm doing an impression of a white lady doing an impression. And I don't want that. I'm not going to put that on my mom. So I came up with a joke where instead I'm talking to my mom in Spanish about the girl from Australia, and I still do an accent joke because I make fun of her accent.
Brilliant.
So I'm like,
you completely reframed it. That's so brilliant.
So, because like the other joke about my mom would be like it's based on a true story, but I'm not even going to say it because again, I'm not going to make fun of her accent.
Right.
And then I made a bunch of cheesy down under jokes about the Australian girl, which felt like low hanging fruit. I mean, I know it's in the Southern Hemisphere, but I feel like Australians are a punch up.
Australia feels like party people that like live somewhere insane that was colonized pretty intensely, and so I agree with you. It does feel like a punch up. This might be I don't know, this might be like my most hateful opinion. I kind of like think that most people from Australia are just not great people. I don't know why, but I like culturally I'm just like, I don't know if I can hang, fam. I don't know if I can hang. Like New Zealanders, y'all cool. Australians, I don't know.
Super cool. My friend who is from New Zealand visited me shortly after that girl finally moved out. And I said, did I tell you about my roommate from Australia? And she said, no, because if you had, I would have told you to never have a roommate from Australia. We would have avoided it from the get-go.
Sage comedy wisdom. Only get a roommate from Australia if you were looking for chaos and content.
So the joke ended up being that I had this crazy roommate from Australia, and she drove me so crazy that I would just be on the phone with my mom, like, esta puta no se va. And then she would look at me and go, oh, it's so cute that you and your mom have your own accent. Your own language. It's so cute that you and your mom have your own language. And it's like, bitch, I'm talking about you, and now you won't leave my house. But that's what the joke became, because it started making fun of my mom's accent. And then all of a sudden, I just revealed to the audience that I do speak Spanish.
Bingo.
So then depending on how many laughs I get, I'm like, okay, how many people here actually can I go into other bilingual material?
So it gives you a probe. It gives you almost like a probe without doing crowd work and without doing like an offensive impression.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Oh my god, like standing ovation. That's amazing. That's like such a fantastic example of a punch up. As you were like navigating, you know, I don't want to punch down on my mom, that feels icky. I don't want to punch down on accents, that feels icky. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? But I do want to punch at this person because they were a dick, and so it's kind of deserved. Like, how, you know, did you weigh out those, like, options? Was it all kind of internal thought? Was it just trying it out at mics? Did you journal with it? Like, did you talk about it with other people? You know, what was kind of the like physical embodiment of that practice to get to that point?
A lot of writing through the jokes, talking to people about the jokes, or like honestly openly complaining about my roommate. And then
God,
basically
I love a complain. I love a vent, babe.
I basically like open format start complaining, knowing I'm gonna go into a bit and seeing how my friend is gonna react, and if they're like start laughing and they're like, you should use that, I'm like, yes, I know I was gonna use it. I've just rehearsed this complaint a few times. You're the third person I've complained to today about this same thing.
Oh my god, like me at a party, literally not me doing crowd work at the party. Oh my god, that's so real. Holy shit. That's amazing. That's such good advice. Complain, rehearse your complaint. That's so good.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, now I'm sorry, like, looking back, like, it also was a scenario that almost happened so many times. Like, I would be on the phone with my mom, and she would ask me a question about my roommate, and I'd be like, hold on, mommy, and then I'd be like, wait, never mind. I can speak to you in Spanish, it doesn't matter. And so then that idea, too, was like, oh, hey, this is giving me something.
That's so fun. I love getting to talk with people that are bilingual about kind of also their process in comedy, because I think that the homies that I've talked to, they think about words very differently. Now, I would not say that I'm like fully bilingual with like Spanish, but I would say that I'm like pretty conversational with Spanish and with ASL. And doing sign in my sets, it's so interesting to find similar things like that where I'm like, oh, like I can bring an element of this joke it's like literally in a different language, but then it is like adding another layer of humor onto it because it's physicality and it's kind of representative or mimey, and it's really helpful for me to figure out a joke that way.
I think that's really interesting that you say that, because I've been thinking about this with like when I listened to you and Israel's podcast episode, because of like how you were discussing like Spanish joke, like switching between English and Spanish jokes, and how sometimes you are just out of the blue finding new punchlines. And a lot of times they're puns. Yeah. But for me, in Spanish, puns they do not get delivered the same way they do in English, which a lot of times comes off as really cheesy, like dad jokey.
Yeah.
Like the way that puns are used, like the cadence of them in jokes in English, for me, it falls flat a lot of the time. And I don't know if you find that in ASL, if you're able to just like more fluidly do wordplay without it sounding like, you know, what's it called? So obvious. You know?
Yeah. It's almost campy. It's so exaggerated. No, it's interesting. I think that it's same but opposite. I find that with ASL, sometimes the jokes that are puns are they're somehow more fluid, but also more dad jokey, if that makes any sense, which I think makes the overall joke more silly and more fun. So to give like a couple of examples, like to do like the sign for who, and you can bring that to your nose. And so it's not a proper way to say who knows, but it is a punny way to say who knows.
Yeah.
I have a joke that I talk about being like, I like liken myself to different shades of crackers because I'm a white guy. And in the joke, I like the sign for like cracker that you like eat is like a little bit different, and then there's also like a sign for like the cracking of an object. And so I do the second sign and I do it on my skin, and I try to expose like the fact that it's on my forearm to show that like I'm doing the sign for cracker on me, a cracker, and there is like a different layer of a pun there, and so I don't even have to sign like the word for white. I can just do
just do that because now
it registers. Yeah, it like changes the context of it, which is really fun. And similarly, I just reworked a joke yesterday that's like pretty new, wherein I talk about eating glue, and instead of like signing, you know, the sign for like glue and then like just the sign for eating it, you kind of combine them and you do it in like a way that also is really similar to the gay like sign, like the sign for gay. And so it really like makes it a bit more cheeky, and it makes it a little bit more fun to look at, and it also gets the point across that you're saying something about like a gay like child that eats glue without having to sign all of that at the same time. You know what I mean? Like in the succinct order. So it's so interesting to hear the way that like
glue?
You know, interestingly, I wasn't a glue kid. No, I wasn't. As much as I love substances, that wasn't my drug of choice.
That wasn't mine either.
No.
I was like, what's this about?
No, I was like the kid that would I would take whiffs of the hand sanitizer because I liked the taste of alcohol. Yikes. That's true. I never even told anybody that. It sounds awful out loud, but it's also really funny. Man, puns in Spanish being like more smooth. That's so interesting because I do feel like wordplay that I've heard in Spanish is delivered almost as like a suave demeanor, if that makes sense, more than it is like really putting the fun and fundamental, you know?
Like, where it's like, yeah. I don't know why. This is a podcast, they can't see what I just did, damn it.
That's why it's tough to be like, and then you do this sign, and they're like, I'm like, oh, they have no idea what I'm talking about.
What it brings to mind is, like, I have this joke that I put back on the back burner, like, a year ago, 2 years ago, because I just, well, it was mostly it was about my ex's family, which is Puerto Rican, and how, like, I would speak Spanish with his family, and there's words that we both use that mean totally different things.
Oh, can you give a couple examples?
In this case, I was telling his grandpa, he asked about our pets, and about our pet hamster and pet lizards, which in Argentina, for a little creature, is un bicho. But you know what that means, okay. And I'll be like, I don't know how to say hamster or lizard, so I'm like, un bicho peludo, no sé qué sé yo, un bicho como, es como un reptilio, like I was trying to explain it like a scaly one, the ones that don't have hair, and he's like, your sisters have bichos, which
You're like the tiny toupee and the little scaly guy.
The tiny toupee, the little scaly guy.
Oh my god.
And he was just like so chill about it, and it turned out he had Argentinian friends, so he knew what he was trying to say. But at the end of the day, I told my ex, I'm like, I mean, if your grandpa did think my sisters had penises, he was really cool about it and like accepting. But now I realize that if I say that joke, if I like, which isn't, you know, if I bring that back in, then later in my joke about sucking dick, I can be like, I was sucking this guy's lizard.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, we love a callback.
Like I can call back, and then I'm saying it in English.
Right.
Because I already told them what the other word means.
So they get it. What, yeah, like, oh, I love being able to almost like kind of teach a bit, if that makes sense. I've like done that with I'll like kind of show the sign for penis, which is basically the it's like a peace sign and you hold it to your nose. And it's already kind of silly. It has like a bit of a fool element to it to me. And so I'll try to be like, when you have a penis, it's not a penis, and it looks like, oh, you guys are very quick. You know what I mean? They catch on. And so then as I incorporate that throughout the set, it became like a physical callback that they're like expecting the joke. And that's been like really helpful. So I love that like you're able to do that same kind of thing in Spanish and you're like incorporating it into the joke. Do you have, what time are we at? 32. Okay, great. Do you have any jokes right now that you have either trashed or that are new that you want to work on? No pressure if you don't want to do any material in the air, but that's why I always like try to ask for like a trash joke, because I'm just like, well, if you're not using it and it's already trash, then like it doesn't hurt to see if it could be recycled, you know?
Oh yeah. Like that was honestly a joke that I kind of just trashed, you know, because it was more like a funny.
Oh, it's good. Bring it back.
A funny story, but right, maybe I'll bring that back. Okay, I tried to take some notes and find. So I have a joke right now, and I don't know if it's a joke or just a hot take.
What's the difference, really?
Thank you. And the premise is basically language matters, and we should give people's occupations respectful names, right?
Yes.
And we've come pretty far in that. But there's one job that I think has the title it deserves, and I think it's meter maid. And I know that sounds pretty fucking derogatory, but it's a bitch-ass job title for a bitch-ass job that bitch-ass people choose to do. Those people are going to hell with, like, tow truck drivers, landlords, and the tax collectors from the Bible.
Yo, that is so good. That joke's already really punchy.
Okay, but do you think it's okay to just have a point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think that if you were going to, like, I would run it as is, and I think that people are going to be like, if nothing else, even if it doesn't get like a laugh, it would get like an applause.
And it kind of riles me up to where I'm like, okay, now I can do the rest of my set with this energy.
Yeah. I think that it's important to have those energetic bits that are almost more energetic than they are funny, because that raises the vibe of the overall set in the room. The joke already sounds really funny. If you were to kind of reframe that at all, which I don't necessarily think that you even need to, like something that I try to do is just like basically write the same joke but with the opposite take. So it's like instead of being like, you know, I hate X, it'll be like I love X, and I can either take that literally to the point that it's silly, or I can take it ironically to a point that people are going to register that I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, what if I took a take like, what if people are too hard on meter maids?
Exactly. It's almost like, to me, that's somehow sillier to be just like, yeah, we know that it's a bitch-ass job for bitch-ass people doing a bitch-ass thing, but, you know,
and that's why it has a bitch-ass title.
And that's why it has a bitch-ass title, but, like, can we get a bitch-ass title that's not mean to women? Like, I don't know. Like, there's something there of, like, almost a fake sympathy.
But can we refer to them? Can we refer to them as an occupation that doesn't work hard, like meter politician?
Right, exactly. You're like, what is like the
meter cop?
Yeah, meter cop. There it is.
See there, and then that's a punch up. That's a
One,
punch up
and it's
instead of a punch down.
Exactly.
Because instead of referring to maids, it's like a bitch ass job. No, hell no.
Fucking fantastic. Yes, queen.
Yeah,
you just worked that all out on your own.
Workers.
That was so
Hell yeah.
good. What a great
See,
take.
Now we just made that joke a punch up, and I'm super excited.
Wow, that was like the fastest punch up that we've had on this show. It like took us like 90 seconds to get to an entirely different but better joke. That's so cool too. That's such a fun punch up to be like both kind of talking about the funny parts of like calling something a maid and also talking about the problematic parts of it in the same like sentence.
Exactly. Okay, I have to write it down.
Yes, I'm like write that down right now. That was so satisfying.
That was very satisfying. This coffee was good stuff.
I love. Okay, shout out Sweet Bloom in Westminster. Y'all have great latte art. Y'all got cute little baristas. Y'all got nice little people. I always feel like, I mean, not to be rude, I always feel like the people working behind the counter here are a little gay, and that makes me feel safe. That makes me feel at home.
Well, I mean, the thing about coffee is that if they're not, is it good?
Oh my god, so real.
It's like one of those things about like, you know, like I'm Latino, I like to eat Hispanic food, and if I go to a Hispanic restaurant and there's no Hispanic people,
I worry. Yeah, I definitely, that's a red flag.
Red flag.
White flag of surrender.
Actually, White Flag by Dido. Good song.
That's a jam. It's a bop. Oh my goodness.
We should be easier on meter maids. Bitch ass job. Bitch ass people.
Bitch ass job. Bitch ass people. Bitch ass title. Should give them a better bitch ass title that doesn't reflect hardworking women. You know. People that don't work hard. Landlords, cops. Ugh. Meter cop. I'd watch that movie. I'd boycott that movie. I guess rallying the ponies here. And it's so funny. I use that term all the time. I don't even know why. Rallying the ponies. Get them up, saddle them up, ride them up, get them down. Rallying the ponies, the horses. What advice would you have to people that are just starting out comedy? If you could like go back and give yourself a piece of advice from when you were starting, what would you say?
Your material and the audience and how that makes you feel, and like the feedback and the supply and demand of that relationship, like that's the most important social aspect of comedy. Unless you're doing it to just make friends and stuff. If you're doing it because you want to be a comedian and you like writing jokes, just keep remembering that the most important social relationship in that room is you, yourself, and then making people feel better and laugh, because that's what you came to do. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's such good advice to like focus in on not just the audience and who they are and what they're doing and crowd work the bejesus out of them, but also to like focus on like what is your actual relationship with them, what is the conversation that you're having, even if they're not saying anything to you.
You could have a whole scene that you've kind of like social faux pas yourself from, whether you're not blacklisted, but if you can go in a venue and just sit by yourself and then still show up, make people laugh, and then go talk to your audience members, you don't have to have friends in the scene. And I know we just talked about how to make friends, how to find your people, how to feel accepted. The problem is that we're going to be traveling to new cities. The goal is to branch out and stuff, and we're not always going to get to like have that community. So we still have to find a way to like
not isolate yourself.
Not isolate yourself, because you're there for them. The audience, you're never alone if you have an audience, even if you don't have any friends behind in the green room or behind the scenes.
Big snaps. I love that. I love that energy. I love that it's so open-hearted. I think that's such wonderful wisdom. And usually that's kind of my closeout question, but I'm going to close out with one more for you before we actually scoot, which is, you know, the world is a pretty scary place right now. It's definitely a scary time to be a woman. It is a scary time to be any sort of minority in the United States. Do you have any, not even necessarily words of like wisdom, but just like as people are trying to retain joy in whatever way that they can right now, you know, do you have any recommendations or advice or words of encouragement for people listening that might be having a tough time holding on to that? I know it's a big one.
I know.
I got one. I look at laughing like people look at walking like an exercise. You know, like people that are like, I gotta get my steps in even if it's a rainy day. I gotta get my steps in even if it's cold. Like, I gotta get my laughs in even if it's a bad day. I gotta get my laughs in even if the world is scary. Like, I have to find something that's gonna make me laugh. I want to find something that's gonna make someone else laugh. But like pursuing it as an exercise is like life-saving for me. And it's something that like I would recommend looking at as a practice more than just like a hobby or, you know, like, yeah, like it's recreation, but it's also like, it is real exercise.
You know, that brought something into my mind, like especially for like young women, young femmes, and like anybody who is like socialized to be like a caretaker, like a people pleaser, like a lot of people like in those demographics are, a lot of times like doing things that are positive for people are things that it's like a duty that you're raised to have. But just because you have a special skill or a craft that ends up pleasing people or entertaining them doesn't mean you're doing it because it's part of that duty or something. Ooh. And you have every right to become a professional and hone in that craft. And like that's how you're staying true to yourself. And there's nothing inherently subservient about being a person who is an entertainer or a person who ends up pleasing people because of your craft or your art form. That's just who you are as a person, and don't let people take away the power of your professionality and your craftsmanship just because maybe you have a leg up because you were raised to, you know, prioritize other people's feelings and be more empathetic or be a caretaker.
Wow. That just hit me like a train. That's such good advice. Oh my God. Wow. I'm going to sit with that for the next like week and a half. MaryAlice, thank you so much for meeting me at this little coffee shop on a day that the world is falling apart and talking about punching up, and I so appreciate you. I really admire your work. Let the people know where they can find you on the internet. If you have anything upcoming you want to plug, let them know.
Of course, yeah. You can find me under Fernet Barbie online, Instagram, MaryAlice Howser on Facebook. If you're ever looking for music gear, please come to Wedgel's Music Pawn and Loan. It's the oldest pawn shop and music instrument store in Colorado. So it's all used gear. It's awesome. I just like people to come visit me when I'm working. And we got mics and stuff and PAs for, you know, fellow comics and producers. But yeah, I produce a show called Biohazard. We're going to be moving locations soon, so just follow me to stay updated.
Amazing. Thank you so much, MaryAlice, for being here. Can't wait to have you back on the pod. I could have talked to you for another hour and a half. Dearest Punchkins, be well, be happy, be good, and I will catch you next time. Bye.